Meanwhile, there's growing concern that other Australian athletes will follow.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And you could have watched that guy all night, couldn't you? In fact, let's go back to see how he's doing. Yes, as you can see, the ABC gremlins have been playing their tricks again. And once again, it's Media Hub, the new whiz-bang facility that sends ABC programmes around the country, that is to blame. Launched on ABC One in June this year, Media Hub went to pieces during the coverage of the famous coup against then Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, giving us freeze frames and rewinds around Australia as the new automated system struggled to cope with fast-breaking news. Since then, we've seen stuff-ups on a regular basis, climaxing in total meltdown on 19th of October when programmes in all but 2 states froze up. In Hobart, ABC viewers got this for 20 minutes. In Perth, this for 20 minutes, and in Adelaide, this for half an hour. This latest disaster occurred because Media Hub's computers crashed at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, and the backup failed to kick in. This was catastrophic because Media Hub is essentially a computer system, which switches programmes with a giant router, which also went down. Now, luckily, ABC Sydney still runs a ghost feed of ABC One through an old manual presentation booth. And when Media Hub crashed, this could be put to air instead. But the backup feed was only ABC One Sydney, so some states ended up watching the New South Wales news late afternoon.
And because of technical difficulties, the ABC One schedule will continue to be disrupted in some states this evening, but you will get local news at the usual time.
In Perth, angry toddlers expecting cartoons had to watch a whale documentary instead. And before long, the ABC switchboard was besieged with complaints.
Mainly mothers upset. Children who were throwing tantrums because usual programmes not on.
As ABC Master Control tried valiantly to fill the gaps, some of what went to air naturally had mistakes, like this in South Australia.
In the Adelaide Hills, about 400 asylum seekers in family groups. Bracky in the Adelaide Hills, about 400 asylum seekers in family groups. Bracky in the Adelaide Hills, about 400 asylum seekers in family groups. Bracky in the Adelaide Hills, about 400.
Transition into a viable, sustainable industry is better than the future that they're facing at the moment.
Just like Groundhog Day. Meanwhile, on ABC Two, programmes died for 50 minutes. Until they could be breathed to life through another old booth in Sydney. And later they died again, leaving viewers watching this for 15 minutes. ABC's switch and message boards now also melted down, with 536 complaints about what was happening to the schedule. The next day, ABC Online explained to frustrated viewers,
due to technical difficulties, ABC TV experienced transmission disruptions to the schedules on ABC One, ABC Two and ABC Three last night. As a result, many popular programmes, including Criminal Justice on ABC Two, did not go to air.
So what are we to make of this latest calamity? Well, were it just an isolated example, we could probably say it's only teething problems. But this new ABC baby has had plenty of time to cut its teeth, and the pain continues. On ABC News 24 recently, a report on Indian cricket was suddenly hijacked by a promo for the drum, and a series of other random pictures culminating in this.
And we do apologise for some breakup in the programming there, Virginia, during the sports headlines. It wasn't my fault.
There were some technical problems. I'm just very, very glad that the Chilean miners are not being rescued by us.
According to an email to ABC staff back in June 2009, Media Hub was supposed to
greatly improve on-air presentation performance.
It was also going to allow the ABC to provide
rapid response for live, local or national news or emergency coverage.
And best of all, it was going to do this
while releasing more resources for ABC content production.
Indeed, big savings on staff costs from Media Hub and studio automation are intended to fund News 24. And despite all the problems, the ABC's Chief Operating Officer says he is satisfied with progress, claiming Media Hub has
significantly improved on-air performance, even taking into account the problems that occurred on 19th of October.
And that's despite
a 200% increase in the volume of content served and a 500% increase in the switching required.
But one Media Hub insider disagrees, claiming he's seen 5 to 10 years of mistakes in just 5 months. So, is anyone being disciplined? Has anyone been sacked? Answer, no and no. Partly because this is mostly happening outside the ABC. Media Hub is a private joint venture with commercial broadcaster Win TV. And partly because it's the software that's chiefly to blame. At the heart of Media Hub is a new British playout system called Morpheus, which is also being used in Australia by Prime TV. And according to an insider, it all works fine until you make changes.
You might want to change from a news break to the program. It might get stuck on the news studio and then go to black. Sometimes it just won't go to an ad break, or it might cut out of an ad break. It's not uncommon for the software to freak out if you make too many changes to the schedule. It will lock up and the system will crash.
We've received identical comments from former employees at Media Hub. And that's not great for a TV station that deals with live or breaking news like the ABC. So, can it be made to work? Well, probably. How long will it take? Who knows? Our Prime TV source merely says,
Morpheus will one day be fantastic. The current version is not ready for prime time.
The ABC's Media Hub partner Win also suffered in the October meltdown, though not so badly. And it's experienced similar teething problems, like a current affair popping up in place of the news.
With rock-bottom prices.
Predict mortgage stress will hit hardest in our capital cities.
Win's also had the ads failing to show up for Kerry-Anne Kennelly, with a black screen and then the Win logo for more than 6 minutes. And most embarrassing of all, 3 weeks ago, ABC TV jumped in on the end of a current affair for roughly a minute. So far, we haven't had Win on the ABC, thank heavens. But according to our Morpheus informant,
all it would take would be a typo for Win to end up on ABC, or vice versa.
Win's chief executive, John Hatcher, tells Media Watch that all problems so far have been
resolved very quickly with little disruption to our viewers.
And that everything is
running to plan.
But yesterday on Channel 9 Adelaide, owned by Win, the gremlins struck again during the kids' programmes. But the real test for Win is yet to come. Until last week, southern New South Wales and the ACT were the only regions using Media Hub. By January, there'll be around 40 different areas, each broadcasting local ads that need to be separately switched. And if Media Hub's mistakes continue, it could cost Win dearly with advertisers. The recent meltdown could also cost the ABC, and not just in reputation. It may need to retain its old manual presentation booths, spend money to fix Media Hub's problems, and maybe employ someone to watch ABC programmes as they go out. With News 24 already stretching resources, this could increase pressure to do more with less, and that worries programme makers. But now for something completely different. Our old friend, Alan Jones.
Rick wrote to me in relation to that Media Watch program that not for the first time took a shot at me the other night. I don't worry about these people. They're utterly irrelevant, except that it's taxpayers' money.
Last week we took a shot at Alan Jones for vilifying the Director of Military Prosecutions, Brigadier Lynn McDade, and for interfering in the legal process with his rabid campaign to drop charges against 3 Australian soldiers charged over the killing of 6 civilians in Afghanistan. So, what's Alan's response?
Perhaps, he's the lovely line this, perhaps we should have all the socially aware go to Afghanistan and show us how it should be done. I must say you'd love to see some of them in a contest, wouldn't you? They couldn't run away fast enough.
Now, we at Media Watch love to know what our viewers think, and we're sad when they don't agree. But luckily, Alan never has to deal with such problems, because his listeners like to play follow the leader, as they've done recently over a carbon tax.
I asked you in a poll on Friday, internet poll, do you want your federal MP to vote in favour of a carbon tax? Yes or no? And 21,365 answered that people voted. 21,091, 98.7% said no.
98.7% voted with Alan. Now that's what I call a majority. We haven't seen figures like that since Saddam Hussein got the boot. So how does Jones command such obedience? Well, for a start, he leaves listeners in no doubt what he thinks.
We swallow this carbon tax emissions trading scheme nonsense at our own risk, and that's why you must vote in the poll.
Then he whips them up into a frenzy about the urgency of sending a message to those stupid politicians in Canberra.
So come on, let's get onto that website, get your friends onto the website to vote so that you can be heard. That's the key.
Jones then tells his listeners that everyone with any sense has already done the decent thing and voted the right way.
My question, do you want your federal MP to vote in favour of a carbon tax? 98.8% have said no. That's the question.
In politics, they call this push polling, which Wikipedia describes as
a political campaign technique in which an individual or organisation attempts to influence or alter the view of respondents under the guise of conducting a poll.
Or more colourfully as
a form of telemarketing-based propaganda and rumour-mongering masquerading as a poll.
But Jones has taken this discredited technique even further because he appears to believe the results should be taken seriously.
Only 274 out of 21,365 said yes. What do you make of it? What do you make of it?
What do we make of it? Well, we think it's a crock. Even if the poll had been conducted fairly, it would still only tell you what Alan Jones and his listeners think. And they're hardly a cross-section of Australia. Yet Jones claims it's the will of the people. And he says that evil Gillard government is riding roughshod over ordinary Australians, like him.
Now the Gillard government is hell-bent on putting a price on carbon. Democracy down the drain. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. I think Julia Gillard needs a rapid education on what parliamentary representation is about. It might be a harsh reminder, but Julia Gillard is a public servant, not a public master.
Yes, there's only one master in Alan Jones's universe. The master of manipulation. The man whom all must heed and serve. And in case you want the opposite view, a recent Galaxy poll showed 72% of Australians in favour of the Greens negotiating with the Gillard government to put a price on carbon. So, Alan, what do you make of that? What do you make of that? I'm sure you won't be running from the battle. And that's all from us. We'll be back next week with the final edition of Media Watch for 2010. Until then, a very good night.